What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm gonna talk about black people playing both sides. And it goes back to the whole idea of how do you keep it real in the black community, and how do you keep it real, not necessarily the white community, but outside of the black community. So if you want to call it the white community, then go ahead and do it. Because a lot of us who do have to play both sides because of our work or for other reasons, sometimes we feel kind of isolated because a black person might say, oh, you talk a certain way, or you dress a certain way, or you live in a certain area, or you drive a kind of car. So it's kind of like you're looked at as backwards, right? And my question is, what's the big deal? What does it matter how I speak, how I talk, how I drive, if I still know who I am? I still get pulled over. I still, when I still go to the bank, a lady might still hold her purse a little bit tighter. She doesn't know, where I went to school or where I'm from. She has no clue. Chances are I'm probably more educated than she is. Alright? I'll tell you why. It stems from the fact that your standard black culture in America today, and you can get mad all day, hasn't been created by black people. Meaning, we'll talk about black male culture. Alright? We didn't create that. The whole sagging pants and all that stuff. If you look back, and I don't want to get into a history lesson, but we didn't really create that. Those conditions that cause us to dress a certain way, that cause us to make a certain type of music, certain types of movies, and whatever. We didn't create that. Our mindset didn't go into creating that culture, that world. So, in my opinion, a lot of black people feel uncomfortable when somebody doesn't fit into that stereotype of what a black person should be, because it's uneasiness, because we're in a culture by default that we didn't create, so of course we feel uncomfortable about it. There's a video that Malcolm X did that really changed my life. I listened to it when I was a freshman in college, and it talked about why he changed his name, and you can find it on YouTube. He was interviewed, and they were trying to call him by his former name and not by Malcolm X. And he went into, the rationale behind why he went to Malcolm X, and it made perfect sense. So I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. Please go out of your way to watch that video. And after you do, watch this one again. Because the biggest problem that's holding us back in America is black people. We haven't decided what is our culture. So we have this natural tendency to adopt the hood culture because that's where the majority of us are from. I understand that. Well, all I'm trying to say is the cultural forms and customs that come out of that, we didn't create. If we had a choice to create our own self-image and what we're about and what we stand for, trust me, it wouldn't be about that. Because we didn't knowingly put ourselves in that position. So it's weird when you see somebody who doesn't act like that, because it goes against the grain. And because there's some unease, because you tend to act in a certain way that you didn't create. Pure and simple. So if a black woman acts in a certain way, she's calm, respectful, even when she's disrespected or mad, another black chick might say, what are you doing? You should have walled it out. You should have did what you had to do. Why? Because isn't that what we're supposed to do? That's where that unease comes from. If you're okay with who you are, think about it. If you're just okay with who you are, it wouldn't matter what somebody else is doing. But black people, we hate on each other, and I'm gonna be real, we hate on each other far more in 2008 and anybody else hates on. I'm not talking about racism or anything like that. I'm just talking about pure hating. Bring each other down. If we don't fit that mold, think about it. I'm a teacher. I don't know if I've shared that with you guys before, but I'm a teacher. Alright, so when I'm at my school, and I'm walking through, talking to some of the students, all the black kids, especially the black males, they have on the same type of uniform. There's no variation. And typically, some of the black people who are on the outside, who are kind of outcasted per se, they tend to dress different, they tend to act different. Because, they're just different in general. Pure and simple. Same thing goes with, a lot of the females I see. So anything outside the uniform, what you're typically supposed to do, black people get shocked. Because it stems from confusion. It's because they're not comfortable with who they are themselves. And you know what? You shouldn't be comfortable, because at the end of the day, you didn't create that. You didn't create that image. Seriously. And I'm not talking about the small, minor stuff. I'm talking about some of the major stuff. If you look at default black culture, it's hood culture. There's white people in poverty, there's white people in middle class, there's white people in upper class. But default white culture, right, is you're kind of the middle class. Same thing with Asians, same thing with a lot of other people. They've defined who they are, regardless of what white America wants to do. Because white America, it wants to label you. That's what it wants to do. It wants to label you. And other minority groups, in my opinion, and from what I see, try to shy away from that and don't, try to adopt it and try to embrace it. Well, black people, we gotta embrace this hood culture. So if you don't embrace it, in closing, people look at you differently. People treat you differently because they're uncomfortable with it themselves. You got kids, little kids talking about, oh, have you ever got shot at? Like it was a badge of honor, like how a white kid would go through the Boy Scouts or the Boy Cubs, whatever. You got these kids, oh, have you ever been chased by the police? Have you ever been shot at? And it's said that it just happens, and a lot of the times, though, a lot of these kids are just making it up. Because the school I work at, none of them kids know about the hood. Their parents might, their older brothers might, their older sisters might, but these kids, they don't know anything about it. But they talk about it because it stems from that hood culture. So if another kid doesn't adopt that hood culture, he's looked at differently because he's comfortable doing something else. He has enough confidence in himself to say like, hey, I'm going to define myself. I'm going to dress a certain way. I'm going to do what I have to do. So if you feel different, let me know how you feel. I'm not necessarily trying to blame black folks because, our current condition, I can't even put a number on it, but all I know is it has everything to do with our past, and it has everything to do with how we think of ourselves and what we should be and what we shouldn't be. So let me know how you feel.